Okay, guys. So great to see everybody here. Please turn on your cameras and your microphones so I know that you're with me. Very important thing during the session, if you have questions, don't wait till the end. You can put them in the chat, which is fine. But I won't be able, I don't know if I'll be able to see all of them. That's number one. Number two, I want you to, if you want to ask something, just open your microphone and just raise your hand saying, I got a question. Just go like that. So what are we going to do today? As I said, we're going to go through a very simple presentation as to how to use Cloudonix the right way when you want it integrated with Retell, with VAPI, any other platform that you wish. That's on one hand. And at the same time, after we go through the presentation, we're going to go through a complete workflow of actually showing how it really works. Okay? I'm recording this so that we can actually put this on YouTube for everybody to be able to use it. Okay? Awesome. So let's begin. So let's share. Here we go. Okay. So one of our claims to fame in Cloudonix is that we say that Cloudonix gives voice agents what we call telephony superpowers. Now, these superpowers, in order to get them to work, we need to basically build the, let's say, the workflow correctly. Now, so in Cloudonix, there is one thing you need to understand. Everything in Cloudonix, and I do mean everything, works. Every call that comes in or needs to go out needs to go through something called a voice application. A voice application is effectively nothing more than a CXML document that actually says, okay, do this or do that. Play a file, say something, or just dial somewhere. A CXML document is, by the way, all of this stuff is available on our developer website, but effectively, a voice application is a very simplistic thing. It's not supposed to be very complex. Now, a container application, on the other hand, is something a bit more robust. What it actually does, it enables you as the developer, the builder, to use things like JavaScript to build internal code inside the platform and add logic to your voice applications. Now, in most cases, voice applications can be built on external servers. This is what most people do. So you can use N8N, you can use Make, you can build your own server. That's fine. It's basically just a web endpoint that serves that CXML document. But in some cases, you want to do it internally because you don't need it. So this entire concept, so today we're going to focus on that workflow. How do we get that workflow to get from nothing to something that actually works using Cloudonix, Telnyx, and Retell in our case? So what is our workflow? So of course, we need to register, of course, an account. Now, when you register an account, you'll see that Cloudonix will automatically create a domain for you. Now, a domain is a little bit like what you can refer to as a workspace on VAPI or Retell, but it's different. Where a workspace is very much, an isolated environment. Like you're saying, okay, these agents work in this namespace and this workspace, and that's it. The Cloudonix domain is more capable because it can access external systems, it can access external resources, and there are some resources that are shared across all your domains, such as container applications. So we'll see that in a bit. The next part is to set up your domain settings. Now, there are some domain settings that are very important in order to enable your voice agent to work the right way. By default, and this is something interesting, so Cloudonix as a platform has two operational areas. It has something called a border, and it has something called subscribers. Now, a subscriber is what you can refer to as a soft phone or a SIP phone or an IP phone or a browser. This is something that users use. And when I say users, I mean people on a computer, not people dialing in from a mobile phone. This is not a phone number. A subscriber is normally a physical device or a mobile application or a web application. The border is actually where we connect other systems. It could be an on-premise customer phone system. It can be Retell. It can be Telnyx or Twilio or anything of that sort. But it is on the border side. Why do we call it the border? Because it's outside of the system. It's something that we have no control of. Okay? Now, in order for these workflows, in our case, to work the right way, we need to enable border-to-border communications. Basically, calls can come in from the border side and then go out to the border side, coming in from the world and going out to the world. Because by default, Cloudonix disables that capability due to security restrictions. Okay? Next part. Then we want to connect our telephony provider. Now, connecting Twilio, Telnyx, Plivo, you name it, okay? Each one of them will have their own shtick. Each one of them will have their own little bits of pieces of doing this and doing that, fine. But the overall process will be relatively identical. It won't be that difficult or that complex. The differences may be, let's say, I'm not sure what you mean. You got 5 minutes of fan, but fine. As I said, so each one of them is a little different, but it's little quirks, but the overall process is very similar. Once we connected our telephony provider, we will create our container application and voice application. Now, there is a constant relationship between these two. A container application is just a piece of JavaScript code or a CXML document. That's it. It doesn't do anything on its own. Okay, in order to use a container application, I need to create a voice application inside my domain and attach these one to another. Okay, a container application is what we call a tenant or a customer level resource. It is available to all domains. You can activate or attach a voice application from any domain that you may have to a container application that exists at the customer level. And you should do that. Once we do have our voice application connected to our container application, we need to attach a phone number to it. That phone number will come from our telephony provider. Okay? For example, Telnyx. Now, here's the beautiful part. Remember we talked about border and we talked about subscribers, right? You can use a software like, let's say, Zoiper, or if you're on Windows, MicroSip, in order to register a soft phone, an IP phone, to your Cloudonix domain. And when you dial that number that you created for your voice application, it will get invoked. Just like if the call came in from Telnyx. It will work exactly the same. And that's a great way of actually testing your setup and making sure things work the right way. Hey, Matt. Once you do that, we actually want to connect our voice agent. What is that number 4? Should have been number 6. I messed up. So once we have that connected, okay, and we completed that flow of going through it, then if we've done everything the right way, we should be able to pick up the phone, dial that number that we assigned, and we'll hit the voice agent. Now, one of the questions that a lot of people ask me, okay, so great, I got my first phone number working, I got my first agent working, now what? So very simple. Just repeat numbers 2 through 6 as many times as you need, depending on your voice agent. So you got one voice agent, you can, great. You need another phone number, just assign another phone number. That's it. Another set of rules that come in and out, and you're able to come in and literally manage all of your phone numbers. Now, why is this important for you? Because now you can take the same phone number and you can say, okay, I'm going to attach it to Retell. And then 2 weeks later, Retell has an issue for God knows why. So let's connect it to VAPI as a backup. I'm going to reroute it. Or I want to be able to send calls outbound from both Retell and VAPI using the same outbound caller ID for my agent. Normally, you can't do that. For example, if your number is coming in from Twilio and it's connected to Retell directly, you won't be able to connect it to VAPI at the same time. Just won't work. So here you're able to do that. So let's go through the actual workflow. Like, what am I going to do? How do I get this thing to actually work the right way? Okay, let me just share the other screen. Okay, here we go. So I created a brand new customer on Cloudonix. It's called CX Guide. I'm going to log out right now just to show you exactly what it will look like. Log in. And I'm going to use this. There we go. I was optimistic. There you go. There we go. So as you can see, I've got a single domain here. So when you log on to Cloudonix for the first time, this is what it will look like. Exactly like this. You'll log on. There's just one domain in here. Nothing more, nothing less. That's it. Okay. So let's assume right now that I want to use the domain that I already have in here. This is the default domain right now. And I said, okay, so we said that our first order of business, right, was to, who can remember what was the first stage? Anybody remember? What was the first stage? In the previous slide. It's not a rhetorical question, guys. There we go. Here, first step, we have our Cloudonix account, right? So now we're going to set up our domain. So I'm going to go into my Cloudonix domain, settings, domain settings, and I'm going to allow border-to-border calls. I'm going to save it. Now, there's a lot of stuff here that you can manage and you can play around with. I'm not going to go through all of it right now, but this is the most important one, the border-to-border calls. Remember this. Now, third step, I'm going to connect my telephony provider. In this case, I'm going to use Telnyx. Why? Because I already have an account there and it's more or less set up. So I'm going to create a new connection in here. And I'm going to call it, this is going to be my connection. Now, here's the important part here. Now, Telnyx is, compared to other systems, gives you a lot of flexibility. One of the things it does is this, is enabling you to say, okay, how do you want to create your SIP trunk with Telnyx? So in our case, this is going to be an FQDN, fully qualified domain name based SIP trunk. I'm going to create this. Now, I need to add in my FQDN. So what is my FQDN? In the inbound trunks, I have what we call the SIP trunk hostname for inbound calls. This is my FQDN, not this. Although both of these can resolve, both of these will resolve to our platform, the one you need to use on Telnyx is actually this one. Okay, so I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to say add FQDN. I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to say save. And here I'm going to say primary FQDN is this one. This means that when a call will come in to any of my phone numbers, okay, it will get redirected to this domain name, namely into the Cloudonix border environment. Cloudonix will actually see this hash that is auto-generated and will automatically know that this hash represents this domain, and whatever happens next has to be done through the voice applications that will be defined here. Okay? I know it sounds a little complicated at this point, but once you do it one time, it becomes really, really simple. Now, outbound authentication. Now, here's a little trick. So the problem here that you can do either credentials or IP addresses. My personal recommendation or my personal favorite is IP addresses. Why? Because it's simpler. Also, it requires less work. So I will say, I will go in and basically, just a minute. So this IP number here represents the same. If you look up this domain name, you'll see that it actually points to this IP number. This is our border gateway front end. So basically, I will save this. And now I'm going to say tech prefix here. I'm going to say on Telnyx, they usually require 4 digits. So I'm going to say 3587. Why? I don't know. Just seems like a good one. So a tech prefix basically is a set of digits that will be prepended to the destination when you dial out. You don't have to worry about it because it's something that Cloudonix will do for you. So don't worry about that. So we got first part done. The next part here, you can just next. Now, here is something interesting. Now, numbering, E164 and plus E164 and national dialing, take my recommendation, always use E164 numbers. Always. Never do national dialing, never do local dialing. Always E164. Why? Because if you do E164, you will never get into a situation where you may get a duplicate local number for some odd reason if you're working in multiple countries. So I'm going to change here to E164 and E164 in both cases. Now here's something interesting and important. You can change here from UDP to TCP to TLS. In Telnyx's case, use UDP. And this is an interesting one. So the SIP region, where do I want to pinpoint my audio? Now, this is very much dependent on the phone numbers you're going to be attaching. I know this is going to sound really funky, but for example, if you're going to use phone numbers from Italy, you'd better use a European SIP region. If you're going to use phone numbers in the US, you should use a United States region. Why is that? So you have to remember that Telnyx is spread up all over the world, right? They got numbers everywhere. And that means they have equipment in multiple areas. Same applies to Cloudonix. But Cloudonix knows and sees where media comes in from and knows how to auto-optimize it. So we'll see, if we see that Telnyx will be sending the media from Europe, our system will automatically optimize the media to our European endpoints and will ensure that audio is as the best it could be. Now, another interesting thing is the following. Number one, remove receive SIP compact headers. Why is that? Very simple. Cloudonix is able to do SIP debugging, and it actually shows you in the sessions. If you remove that, if you enable that, when things will come in from Telnyx, they'll look shorthand. Instead of saying from, it will just say F. If you're not a SIP expert, then you won't know what it means. So might as well just remove that. Hey, Justin. Another important thing is this. So these are codecs. Now, by default, these are the codecs that Telnyx will enable. My recommendation is to disable these and remain only with G722. Why? And this is, by the way, important. G722 is a high-definition audio codec. It means that it will automatically resample any audio that comes into Telnyx into a 16 kilohertz sample rate. And whatever audio that we receive and then send into your voice agent will be high definition. If you remain with G711 or G729, these are normal definition, 8 kilohertz. And sometimes the audio gets to your agent and it will just sound wrong. It won't be able to properly decipher and transcribe what the person said. If you want to use something like Opus, you can, but bear in mind that if you do that, most carriers do not support Opus, and the result will be that you will introduce latency. Because Opus is a variable bitrate codec, it's more complex. Most carriers in the world use G711. That's most carriers. Most mobile carriers use something called AMR. The next step from G711 and AMR will be G722 from a complexity standpoint. It is the closest and simplest codec to transcode into and will take less time and will not introduce additional latency to your audio. And this is very important. So remember this part here. This can have a great impact on your service. Next.
And wait, so near that will sound the best right there, that G722
G722 will provide you with the best possible quality here.
And can you do that on Twilio too? Or is it just Telnyx?
I don't recall, but we can check it out later.
Cool.
Okay. Here we need to select an audio outbound profile. The rest is blah, blah, blah. Oh, this is interesting. Now, a lot of people ask me about what is the difference between 180 and 183. So I normally like changing this to 183. The primary difference is 180 means that when you dial out, Telnyx will automatically generate a ringtone. And that ringtone comes in from Telnyx. So you don't really know if the other side is already ringing. 183 waits for the last phone or the last carrier in that path to say, I'm waiting for that audio. It's like saying, okay, I'm waiting for the remote phone to actually ring in order to generate that ringtone. So I normally like to change into 183. You want to do 180, fine. Everything is okay. So that's that. Next. And I have a number that I already bought. So it's the one that we used in our last session. So I'm going to assign it. And I'm done. That's it. Now I'm going to ask somebody to dial this number. Can you see it? Who's going to help me on this one?
I can do it.
Yeah. Who's dialing it? Matt?
I got you.
You got? There we go. Now if I go into sessions, there we go.
You need an
Okay.
outbound trunk in your domain setup. Please add an outbound trunk to allow outbound calls to other carriers or platforms.
Right. Now, remember that we set border-to-border calls enabled? That error message basically says, Cloudonix got the call, but there is no default outbound trunk to pass the call to, so it says, I don't know what to do with this stuff. So I'm kind of lost, right? Great. Awesome. Now, what we're going to do, go back into our setup and say, okay, so we got this. Now we need to create our container application. We need to basically, I'm going to create a container application that will enable me to send calls into, to send calls, in our case, into Retell. Okay, sounds good? Let's go. So how are we going to do that? So I'm going to go into the Cloudonix developer website. And because I'm a relatively lazy person, I'm going to take one of our templates. So this little template is based on JavaScript, and this is what we're going to use in order to route calls. But we're not going to be using it as is. We're going to do something a little fancier. Okay. Let's remove all of these so we won't get delete.
What was that website you went to get that code?
Developers.cloudonix.io. Developerscloudonix.com, sorry. That's our developer website. Okay. So I'm going to create a new application, and I'm going to call this application call router. Now, I'm going to create a new container application. Now, container applications can be created with various runtimes. Now, the runtime is applicable to what we call a block. A block is like a single execution unit of your container application. You can have multiple ones. The runtime can be either JavaScript, Ruby, if you really want to, or a static CXML, which is what I'm going to show you right now. A forward, basically go to a different URL, for example, saying, okay, go take the CXML from somewhere else. And a select, which is a specific thing. But for now, I'm going to use a static one. Now, this is what I call the best practice. Because as you can see, when I create an application, okay, you see here the block URL that appears here? The first block is always called main. So I like setting up my main as a hangup in order to make sure that whatever I do, okay, I can always do in a meaningful way. Also, it basically gives me kind of like a black hole place to land anything that I don't want to service. Just drop it in there. I'm going to create my container application, and here's my container application. Now I'm going to create a new block. I'm going to call this block inbound call router. And I'm going to create a JavaScript. Now, let's go a little bit into this JavaScript to understand what happens. How many of you are not familiar with JavaScript or Node in our case? Raise your hand. Don't be shy. Okay, so I will assume everybody has some familiarity with JavaScript. Awesome. So the trick here is the following. When Cloudonix receives a call from anywhere, as I said, it tries to activate a voice application. A voice application is effectively a web request. It looks something like this. This is what it looks like. It's effectively just an HTTP request to an endpoint with all of this information in it. Like where the call is coming from, where it's going, if we have some caller name, the direction inbound or outbound, or is it coming in from a subscriber, and other information. Now, all of this information is available to us through what we call here the event. The event will have multiple parameters. All of this stuff, all of these parameters are available through the event parameters. So what happens here? I'm saying, okay, so I have a small function that says, here's my response. This is a static thing. And the response here basically says, dial into Retell, into a service provider that's called Retell, based on the to number, that's the destination, and present this, the inbound caller ID in the from, set that in. That's it. That's the only thing it does. So let's create this block. Again, this is a very simplistic way of doing things. Also very highly optimistic one, but it's enough for our for this session or for this example. So I'm going to go back. So I created my container application. Remember, we have the main block when you have the inbound call router block. Okay, I'm going to go back into my domain, and I'm going to go into my applications. Now, remember we said that anything in Cloudonix, anything, has to be operated through a voice application, right? So now I have two interesting options. I can create a static application for my phone number, which I know. So it's this one. So first of all, let's create a voice application. So I'm going to call this inbound call router. I'm going to select the application type as container application. I'm going to select my call router and the relevant block. I'm going to create it. Now, I created the application, but the application here can't do anything. Really, it won't be able to do anything because I need to create what we call a DNID. The DNID is the technical term for a phone number. Why do we call it the DNID and not a phone number? Because a DNID can also be alphanumeric. It doesn't have to be a phone number. It can be a lot of things. Okay. So I'm going to go here, and I'm now going to add my phone number. Now, because I use E164 without pluses or anything, oops. So here's my number. That's it. Now I'm going to go back.
Is it possible to set regex?
You can set a regex, absolutely. For example, if I'll go here, and I'm going to remove here, I'm going to say a prefix match, which is basically something in the form of saying, okay, this is a prefix match, like anything that starts with this. Or if you want to use a wildcard, so you can do something like this. Or if you want to use a regex, then you can do something like this. If you really want to. Personally, I don't like writing regex. If you're familiar with asterisk, you can do something like this. Or so the system basically knows, identifies all these formats and will automatically translate them for you. Okay, I'm going to do cancel for this point. Now I can basically go into Retell. So I created my phone number, my voice application, and I attached a phone number. Now I need to connect Retell. So how do I do that? So I'm going to go back here into my setup, velocity training. So let's go into phone numbers. And I have, okay, great. That phone number is not configured here. So I'm going to create a new phone number. So I'm going to go into this. I'm going to take this phone number and I'm going to put it here. Now, in the termination URI, basically the termination URI says this is what I'm going to use for outbound calling. Okay. So I'm going to go into Cloudonix, into my inbound trunks. Very important, inbound trunks, because from Cloudonix's perspective, inbound means somebody sending a call into Cloudonix. So Telnyx sending in or Retell sending in. Okay? I'm going to put this one here. Just like that. And I'm going to call it Cloudonix AMA. And I'm going to put the number. Save. There we go. So now I can go here. And I'm just going to take an agent that I created previously, one of the templates, nothing too fancy about it. And that's it. If Matt is going to call that number again, if I did everything the right way, Matt will call that number and we'll get the agent. Matt, turn on your microphone.
Is on the way. Let's see.
There we go. Ooh, busy. Why is that busy? Let's see. Failed to determine the status of dial. SIP live kit. Okay, interesting. Session log. SIP trace. Right. Why is that? Because Retell likes getting the numbers with a plus.
Are you using live kit in this?
Retell is based on live kit.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I'm going to go back into my container application. And here I'm just going to add a little bit of a plus like this. Update. Domains. Sessions. Okay. Can you try again? Ringing. Interesting. Why is it not? Okay. Cancel. Terminate session log. What am I doing wrong? Okay, that should have worked. See, never do a live demo. Not connected, user declined. That's wrong. Time range. November. Apply. That's interesting. Intel. Service provider. Caller ID. Set trace. Let's see what it says. G722 invite. So goes the input goes on TLS. Processing, ringing. No, but no, the agent never answers. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. So here we have a little bit of a trick. So the trick is that when it comes to Retell and VAPI, we have additional service provider hints. So we can do Retell, UDP, for example. Date. Can you try dialing again?
Yes.
Error. SIP trace. Is Retell having issues today? Trying invite. SIP Retell AI. Ringing. Rejected. From to SIP. Okay, let's try recreating that number again. Maybe I messed up. Phone numbers. This could be the only reason. Okay. 1-400. Okay, I'm going to delete this one. Delete it. Awesome training. Can't be here, right? Okay, fine. Just want to check. How annoying. Plus, like this. Again, take the inbound from here. And it may. Save.
Ready?
Oh, I know what the problem is. Of course. Let's retail receptionist. Let's do this. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Can you try calling now? There you go.
Hi, thanks for calling Retail Store. What can
Okay.
I help you with
So-
today?
Oh, you
Okay,
did
so
it.
what was the problem? Is that I totally forgot that the previous agent that I set up was not published. So it didn't work. You need to publish it. My bad. So basically all of this should have worked from start. I goofed up. So now we have our complete workflow. But there is one little thing missing from this workflow. Or to be more accurate, it's not missing. If I'm going to take right now and I want to do an outbound call, so how do I get outbound call working, right? So I need to create a connection to Telnyx. So Telnyx, basically, in order to connect to Telnyx, I need to create an outbound trunk. Outbound Telnyx. And basically, remember that we set a prefix? Remember this? I'm going to go into Cloudonix here. In the outbound, I'm just going to put the prefix here. That's it. Now Cloudonix is capable of sending calls over to Telnyx. Now I'm going to take this session here. I'm going to take Matt's phone number. I'm going to go back into retail and say make outbound call from this agent. Okay. And let's see if this thing works. If I did everything the right way, Matt should be getting a phone call right about now. Yep.
Well,
Hi, thanks for calling ACME Retail Store. What can I help you with today?
Awesome. So here's an interesting thing about Cloudonix. Remember when we did the first test of the inbound call, it says that, and it said that there was no outbound trunk. There's no default outbound. Now, because there's just one outbound trunk, basically Cloudonix says, okay, I've got border-to-border calls enabled. I got an outbound trunk, and my default behavior is that any number that's being dialed that I don't know what it is or where it's supposed to go to, I'm going to try and dial outbound into the world. I'm assuming it's somewhere outside, and I need to pass the control to somebody else. Now, in general, that is the default behavior, but there is a problem with that default behavior. What is the problem? The problem is that there's literally no control over it, because I know very well that potentially I don't want to route everything outbound. No, we provide the system in such a way that it's easy to get things done, because we believe that the person who's going to build whatever they need to build has an idea as to what they need to do or what they need to control. It's the same concept when we're building an AI agent. We assume that the person building the agent knows how to prompt the right way. So now I'm going to do something really, really funky. Check this out. So first of all, I'm going to go into my domain settings. You see here this little thing? the default application. Right now, this is the built-in call routing application that does exactly what I said. It looks at the number, doesn't understand what it is, doesn't know where it goes, assumes that it's outbound, and just sends it to the outbound route. I'm going to change this one into the inbound call router. Now, what will happen here is that I can go in, I can take the call routing application and disable it completely. And I can take this number here and remove it completely. And now if Matt is going to call to our agent, it should work because I actually told it whatever number comes in from the world or wherever, just activate the application and go wherever.
Hi, thanks for calling Acme Retail Store. What can I help you with today?
But if I'm going to take this number here and I'm going to go to retail, I'm going to say make an outbound call. Okay, to Matt, call. The call will fail. It'll automatically say busy because it will actually try to dial back into retail because it's activating that call routing application that we created for the inbound call. Look at the session here, session log. See what it does? It tries to dial back into retail. We dialed from retail and it tries to dial back into retail, which is, of course, not what we want, right? This is not the objective. So how are we going to tell it to basically, this is my container application here. How am I going to tell it that it needs to dial outbound on Telnyx? Any idea? What do you think? There are coders here. Come on, guys. Open your mics. This is not, you're not an oil painting. Justin, any idea? Any thoughts?
I was debugging to GitHub. GitHub's down right now, so I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Yes,
So,
yeah, I'll take a look.
yeah. So, what basically I'm going to do is something in the following. So you see, like we have this little dial to retail. I'm going to create a new function. I'm going to say function dial to Telnyx. And it's going to be very similar in this case. Say caller ID from and to is going to be here. But instead of service provider, I'm going to remove this. I'm going to remove this. And here inside my XML, I'm going to say trunks equals. And this is going to be outbound Telnyx. So now I have a function that basically says, okay, I can take a number and just dial it through Telnyx. Great. Sounds good. I'm going to hang up. I'm going to add a little bit of another command in here just to make things very, very tight. Now, when do I need to dial to retail? I need to dial to retail for anything that I don't know. So I'm going to say, here I'm going to create a new function. I'm going to say function, let's call it in or out. It's just going to say, let's say result. That result equals in. Okay.
You spell in or out like that?
What?
You use a 0 for or out?
No, it's a capital O.
Oh, okay.
Return result, no worries. And now what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to create something that will look like this. I'm going to say let yeah, sure. Let DNIDs equals an array. No, it's not going to be an array. It's going to be an object. Okay, so I'm going to create right now kind of like a map of the phone numbers that I want to use. So on Retell, we have this number, right? That we created. So I'm going to say DNID like this, and it's going to say in. So the results is going to be out. Okay, and then I'm going to say results equals DNID EV parameters 2. What is this actually? What's happening here? Basically, it just says something in the form of have a look at this array or this set of this object. And if you see in this object a key that says this, like the key that says 1212, this one, basically it just says just return what's in here in. And if it's not here, it'll just return out. So I'm going to say here like this. Undefined. So if it's undefined, then return out, not return in. Then they don't need this one. Out, in. Okay, here we go. Now I go here. And I know it looks a little complex. I'm very much aware of it. What we're going to do, it looks complex because we're doing it kind of live. So now I need to figure out, is this an in or an out, right? Am I dialing in or am I dialing out? So I'm going to say const direction equals in or out EV. Basically, it says, okay, figure out based on this. If it's in, give me either an in or an out. Now I'm going to say here, I'm going to say direction equals in, then dial to Retell. If not, then dial to Telnyx. That's it. This is my entire workflow. And this basically replaces my need to start playing around with adding numbers and so on. By the way, you can do this using your remote service. You can do this using N8N. You can do this using your own endpoint. You want to do this in Python? Great. Sounds awesome to me. Just, as they say, pick your poison. So I'm going to update this and hopefully I didn't mess up. So Matt, you want to try calling in again?
On the way.
There you go.
Hi, thanks for calling Retail Store. What would you like?
Okay, so that's good. Now, let's see. We go here, make an outbound call. Let's see if I goofed up or not. Apparently I didn't. Is it ringing? There you go.
Hi there. Thanks for calling ACME Retail Store. What can I help you with today?
Ah, 2 different messages. Okay.
What?
Two
So,
different.
yeah, because it depends on if it's initiating or if it's receiving. So now you can see that I have a single script that handles all of my inbound and outbound calls to my account. I can add additional numbers here. I can modify this little tool not only to decide if it's in or out. I can do extend it to regular expressions. I can extend it to whitelisting, blacklisting. If I want to do even a remote query somewhere. So for example, let's say I want to query a remote system to say, to get some kind of API request. I can take this code here, for example. So this is basically an HTTP requester. Then I can query any remote API and it just can, you can extend it, you can make it more and more and more complex and to do more things. Now, what is nice about these container applications is that, number one, they run internally inside Cloudonix. There is no HTTP request that goes out. At the time it takes us to approximately execute a container application is about 20 milliseconds. So if you're thinking about issuing an N8N request or going to an external server, think twice before you do that, because if you can do it within a container application, you will make your agent response time much faster. Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Questions.
Yeah.
This is the time to open the questions and everybody can start bashing me. Come on.
What's your
This is
opinion
fun.
DID management? For example, if you bought a number on retail, do you own that number? Or if you bought a number on Telnyx, do you own that number? And if you're working through multiple platforms, where is the best place to origin your number?
Ownership is a very big word.
Yeah.
You never own a phone number, technically. You never own a phone number. Phone numbers are associated, they're assigned by, in the US, the FCC. In other countries, the various MOCs. In the UK will be Ofcom and other regulatory bodies. And they're normally assigned to specific carriers. When you do number portability, the only thing that really happens is that the number doesn't get really ported. It just says, okay, that number is now there. It's not here. That's the only thing that happens. So ownership is a very big word on phone numbers. That's number one. Sourcing a phone number from Telnyx, from Twilio, from whatever, it's relatively the same. It doesn't really matter. The management of these resources is up to you, how you're going to manage them. So the advantage. So today, when you buy a number through retail or through VAPI or whatever, okay, you don't really have control over it. It's not really your number, because although you buy it through retail or you buy it through VAPI, I don't know what kind of relationship they have with Twilio and so on. So I don't know if Twilio is even aware or tell us if they're aware of your existence as a customer. When you have your own Telnyx or Twilio account, then you are the number owner or the number leaser, to be more accurate, because it's now assigned to you and you pay for it every month. You stop paying, it's no longer yours. Okay. How do you want to manage them? That's up to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and exactly what I said. With normal carriers, you do own the number as long as you pay for it. The fact that you pay for it on With VAPI, probably not. I agree with that statement as well, because as long as you pay for it, it's not that you own it, you're leasing it. So is the more accurate term. Ownership means that even if you're no longer paying for it, it's still yours. That is the term own. Okay. Reynoso, I want to use it, but I need a business account to use it. Okay. I was not. Just came back. I will. Okay. 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 So, guys, this is the time to raise questions with other topics, not necessarily related to what we talked about.
I got another one.
Sure.
What is your approach to troubleshooting identifying the root cause when you are, you're connecting to Cloudonix, you're connecting to Telnyx, you're connecting to VAPI or Retell, and so normal process is go look at the logs, but then where do you go? How do you, maybe if you can share your logic breadcrumbs or how you approach the troubleshooting process aside from the logs to identify problems as you navigate.
You mean, let me understand. So the question is, I have a number on whatever platform.
Not necessarily a number, just you are putting together a use case like the example what we've seen today, and you were troubleshooting, and you can kind of connect the dots in a rapid way. And that's based on a lot of experience. It's from experience, but part of that is how do you approach the trouble?
Okay. So one thing that here's something that in Cloudonix, it's part of the way we think and believe. This is how we think. And the various CPaaS platforms like Twilio and Telnyx and so on don't really give you access or visibility into that environment. So I will explain. So some of the questions that I've seen, repeatedly on VAPI, on Retell, on 11 Labs, are questions like in the form of our outbound SIP trunk returned a SIP 486 error. What's wrong with that? Well, we got a 487. We got a 404. Well, what's going on there? Like, is that an error? There's a bug. Now, no, it's not a bug. These are relevant errors, and they can happen. 486 is a busy. A 404 means not found. It's a valid result code. Now, on most platforms, when you think about Telnyx and so on, for example, have a look here. So we were trying to dial in to Telnyx. The call never got into Telnyx because of various things, and Telnyx was rejecting it. And if we go into the call history, we were not even seeing those rejections here, namely because the way Retell is built is that if a number is not properly defined, it won't even show up because it doesn't know where to assign that call record, that failure record. It doesn't know which account to assign it to. Now on Telnyx, on the other hand, if I go into debug, now I can look for these. Now you can see that they give you some information, but the thing is that it doesn't show you much because you see only from, let's say, Cloudonix into Telnyx, you don't really see what happens beyond this point here. So if something fails, I don't really know why. Let's look for something, for example, that failed. See, I don't even know. It doesn't say here that it failed. Let's see, 774 on this. There we go. Let's take this, for example. So you see a cancel of 487. So I don't really have any insight as to what happens after this point. Now, Cloudonix takes a slightly different approach. And we're saying, we're developers, and we believe that developers should have all the tools in order to be able to investigate whatever they have. So, for example, let's take this one. You can see an error. We're still working a little bit on the SIP trace display because you see it's not this beautiful as the guys, with all these ladder diagrams that everybody likes looking at. But you can see that what we actually tell you what's happening. So we say 192.76.120.10 goes into border gateway with protocol UDP. So we can see the call coming in from Telnyx into our system. So next stage is, again, this is the internal invite. Actually, this is a copy of Tom. So there were 2 invites done. And then we respond back with a 100. Saying, okay, I'm checking it out. Then this invite is being forwarded into an app core. App core is an application server inside our environment. It's internal. You can see that this IP number is completely internal. You can't route to it. And more information. There are signatures here. We can actually see the call ID, the assertion from Telnyx, and so on. And then it goes into app core, says I'm trying 183. 183 already means that app core on our side says, hey, everything looks up and fine with this stuff. I'm going to process it. If there would have been a security issue or the number shouldn't have been properly managed or there was no application inside, it would have said a 603 error, access denied. Like, I don't know what to do with this stuff, so we'll reject it. So now it goes down, session progress, basically 183 means, okay, I'm looking into it. Now look at this. See that it says 2?
Yeah.
2 basically means that, okay, the inbound call processing has completed. Now I'm starting the outbound. This is the second leg of the call. That's why it's called 2. It's the other side. Now you see something funky here. Now this stuff has a lot of internal knowledge as to the internals of Cloudonix itself. Because you see that it dials out, it says SIP URI 1, and this thing. This basically is our internal name for outbound calling. And then if you look down here, it will say something like this. Have a look. You say, okay, this is the number. This is where I'm going to, in this case, retellai.com. I'm going to go through the border. I need the following as my authentication because LiveKit needs it, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't really matter. And so on. And now it goes 100, goes to the border, and then the border basically dials out to Retell. And you can actually see this dial going out. Now, a lot of the information that was previously available is now gone, but here's the interesting part. We are actually making some information internal from Cloudonix. We're making it available to Retell and VAPI, which is basically the Cloudonix token and the domain. Why are these important? These are important because they will enable your AI agent to activate a tool that will activate an API request to Cloudonix to manipulate that call. So you can hang it up, which is basically running a delete on the Cloudonix token. You can do switch voice application. You can do forks. And that gives your agent additional capabilities because it becomes aware of what happens at the telephony layer before it even got the call. So remember, the AI agent lives in a single context environment. It means I'm talking to the AI agent, That's my context. AI agents are not yet designed to do what we call split horizon contexts. It means being able to manage two different contexts, two different conversational contexts at the same time. I know OpenAI are now building something that resembles a split horizon context where several people can initiate a conference call or a conference chat, to be more accurate, with a single AI agent. But I'm not really sure how it's supposed to work when it will come to voice, because the synchronicity of what happens there is different.
Can I ask, so what does that mean? Does that mean that the agent will be able to identify who's speaking in the conversation? Or does that mean the agent can follow the context if I'm talking about basketball and you're talking about cookie pies and add value to both of those conversations?
Yeah, I would say something different.
Okay.
So a split horizon context for me means the following. The agent should be able to converse with two different people at the same time based upon a single conversational context of topic, but maintain two different contexts of conversation with each and correlate between the two into responses from one to the other. Because when
Yeah,
we
that's the basketball pies, right?
Well, it's not really the basketball or the basketball football discussion. It
Okay.
is more of a, we're going to have a discussion about basketball, about who's the greatest basketball player of all time. Okay. I don't know. I'm going to say Michael Jordan, and you're going to say Larry Bird. I don't know. And and the AI is now should be able to listen to both of us and interject, saying, you got a point, but I think that something else. And it should be able to, and in order to do that, it needs to maintain effectively three different contexts. My context, your context, and the context of the actual conversation, which is the topic.
I
Today,
have a
the
working.
agent, what?
I have a slight working version of that actually, where you can make like if the AI agent, say you're using something like 4.1 mini, if you know that you need to grab, like you need to have context with our agent, you can, make a tool call and basically provide that tool call to another AI agent. And that tool call has context there, and then it shares context back over that tool call. So they can kind of share context. It's not as fluid as it should be, is what you're describing, but you can do that with tool calls across two different agents.
Yes, you can do that with tool calls. You can do that with multiple agents that will share something like a storage between them. That's like the memory store between the two. But the problem with that is the response time, because you will end up in a situation where effectively every turn of that agent will require you to perform kind of like a RAG function outside to figure out what is the context of what happened before. So yes, it's doable, but it's going to be very, very clunky. By the way, I did something similar in a similar way. It was a disaster. Really, it was fucking annoying. The only way I was able to get something that was, I'd say, reasonably working was when my tool that I created was not a tool. I actually created an MCP server that only interfaced with the Redis storage. So what happened was that the access to that memory was completely ephemeral. And the memory was only for that session. So yes, you can do it. But we are at least, I think we're at least 12 months away from anything close that will do it, simply because a split horizon context scenario is something I think that the companies are not even looking at. Also the I think the one OpenAI released, because I don't know that they're doing it for voice. I think they're only doing it for chat. Building a chat-based split horizon is actually easier because the experience is completely asynchronous. It's slower, so you can do it. And the memory is reliant on the entire channel. So for me to write an agent that speaks to 3 or 4 different people through a chat is doable, because the actual memory storage of each agent can always go back, back to the previous 10 messages, back to the previous 20 messages, and look and rebuild the context as it goes along. We're actually seeing things like that today done on various NSFW platforms. So you can see that. But from a context perspective, it's going to be interesting. So back to this example here. So you can actually see like the call going at, in this case, to Retell, and then Retell responding back, processing, ringing, and this is rejected 486, for example. This was an error. Like, why was it rejected? We're going to need to figure it out. But at least we know that we got a specific rejection code. We know what happened. If it would have been something else, we would have seen it as well. Let's take this one here. Another interesting bit is when the call connects, you see this thing called quality of service. We can look at what we'll call the MOS scores. MOS scores basically TX MOS and RX MOS. This is the receive. MOS stands for min opinion score, or basically what the system derived as the audio quality between Cloudonix and the inbound and the outbound call, between Telnyx and, so receiver is going to be Telnyx to Cloudonix, and TX is going to be Cloudonix to Retell. So we can actually see exactly how much each side is transmitting. Session log again shows everything, but each one of these is actually expandable. There's a lot of data here that can be interesting if you're a developer. And again, the SIP trace here is interesting. Now, one thing that we also show is that, if you see here, where's that UDP? Border gateway. Here we go. Pay attention that here the call goes out into LiveKit over TLS. So our SIP debug enables you to see the TLS traffic unencrypted, the signaling. So you can actually go in and debug it as required, if required, and so on. So you can actually see the entire codec and all the crypto keys as they are traversed. We're still working on creating that ladder diagram that they have here, which is pretty cool. So we want to do something similar to that. If you look in Retell, for example, so you can see that the logs here are very limited. And they're limited because it makes perfect sense that they're going to be limited. Simply because they're not a telephony platform. They're not supposed to show all of this. You don't want to get into that environment, which makes perfect sense. Hope that answers the question of how to debug stuff or look for things. Normally, when I see an issue, I will always look at the details. Number one, let's take this one, for example. So I'm going to look at the details. It's going to tell me outbound dial has failed, 486 rejected. So this, I'm going to say, okay, this is the call. This is the rejection code. So first of all, I'm going to make sure that the CXML got formed the right way. I can see it. I can read it. Makes sense. And then I'm just going to go into the SIP trace. I'm going to, start looking at it. I'm going to go over it step by step. And making sure that what I see makes sense. Is it something that can be taught? Yes, you can definitely learn it. But I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying you should. But it takes time. It's a learning process. Yeah. Other questions? Everybody's today muted. I have no idea why.
Everything's crystal clear.
Yeah.
My experience shows that when nobody has questions, it's either everything is crystal clear, which I never believe it is, or everything is so opaque that nobody got it. One or the other. Yeah.
I have a question about something happened today in the world for Cloudflare, and I had some problem with VAPI.
The Cloudflare outage today.
And I think how is possible to orchestrate some communication to make more reliable my application, because I think that I don't trust VAPI, and I think in general I want have a more solution to make more redundancy. Okay, like I don't know, use Retell and VAPI, and use Cloudonix to understand how to switch between. How could reach this behavior?
So the behavior you want to reach is I am trying to dial to Retell or VAPI. It doesn't respond. I want to switch over to the other. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. Or something that I decide. For example, I understand there is a problem in VAPI. I want to switch off VAPI, and every inbound, outbound call go with the Retell.
Okay, let's do it. Okay. So let's go back to our example. Okay, so what we're going to do is the following. Let's log on to VAPI. And here we go. So phone number, where is that? I created. So this is the phone number that I created last week. It's the same phone number. This is one thing I really dislike about VAPI, really. It's the way they manage things. The UI is like, you never know if it loads or not load, or like, I just deleted this number. Okay. Try again. The untitled numbers here that I can't delete. I don't know. This one is. Yeah, let's remove a lot of stuff from here. Okay. Let's remove this. Delete. Okay. Reload. So I'm going to create a brand new number. I'm going to delete this. Okay. I'm going to go here into integrations. And I'm going to create a new SIP integration, velocity session, delete, delete, delete. Okay. Now create a new one, configure new, I'm going to go back into Cloudonix, into my inbound. I'm going to take this number here, back into VAPI. I'm sorry, first this. My name. My host. I'm going to allow outbound. Inbounds are automatic in VAPI, although they never tell you it is, but it's actually automatic. And I'm going to say save SIP trunk. And here's my trunk. I'm going to go into phone numbers. I'm going to create a phone number, BYO SIP. I'm going to say, this is my phone number. VAPI. 3. This, and this is my SIP trunk credentials. Say like this. Input phone number. And I'm going to assign it with an agent. And an outbound agent. And I'm going to save it. Okay, so now I've got the phone number defined. And I've got the agent defined both on VAPI and Retell, right? This is what we were asking, right? Now I'm going to go back into Cloudonix. And I'm going to go into my container application. And I'm going to do this. So they have dial to Telnyx, which is okay. And then I have dial to Retell. And now I'm going to do dial to VAPI. Again, this is very, very simplistic. There's nothing too grand here. And now I'm going to say const, I'm going to say provider. I'm going to say VAPI. And now I'm going to say here, Retell routing, dial to Retell. I'm going to say here like this. Now I need to change my AI route, AI XML, call it const. Let's say AI provider routing equals. I'm going to look into the provider. Let's say if provider equals VAPI, then I'm going to say dial to VAPI. EV. And if it's not, dial to Retell. Okay? Basically says if the provider is VAPI, this. If the provider is that, that. Now I'm going to say AI provider routing. Now, if the direction is in, that means it's an inbound call. Then AI provider routing, just give me that. Give me that result. And if it's not, just dial to Telnyx. Now, if I did everything the right way, and I hope I did, then if Matt will dial the number again, we should reach VAPI. Let's see. You're dialing?
Yes, just 1 second here.
Thanks, this is Vicky. How can I help you today?
Okay, so that's VAPI. Now if we're going to go back,
Okay.
if I'll go into my container application here, in here I'm going to say Retell, update, dial again. You're dialing? Here we go.
Hey, thanks for calling Acme Retail Store. What would you like to do today?
That's Retell. That's it. Simple as that. If you want to do something fancier, here's something nuts, okay? So we all know status retaiLAI.com. So we all know that both of them have these status pages. VAPI. Okay, So they have these. Now, these pages have APIs. And you can register to them and you can like these get updates. Like in JSON. Get the entire JSON as JSON. Hey, here we go. Awesome. Webhook gives us, you can do a webhook. So when they fail, something messes up, you'll get a webhook to your side, switch to whatever you want. So for example, this is the JSON for retail for VAPI, and this is going to be the JSON index.json for retail. JSON. See? Now I can take this JSON and say, okay, I'll figure out of this stuff. It says, see, it says all systems operational. And this one says here, whatever, wherever it is. Preprint, here we go. Preprint status, relationships. Wow, VAPI likes to make likes things so complex. So you can definitely take the status from here and say, okay, I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to do it like that. I can route 30% here, 70% there, whatever you want. You want to do
This is cool.
Yeah, you want to do 3 providers? Let's do 3. Come on. There you go. 11 labs. 11 labs. Log in. Let's see if I have agents, office hours, not interested. Agents. So I have a support agent. Great. I have an agent. I have phone numbers. I'm going to import the phone number from SIP trunk. As you can see, this is very similar to retail. So I'm going to come here, sessions. This is my phone number. Let's see, name. Cloudonix. And the phone number is plus this, that. And I'm going to go here. I'm going to copy the domain. Media encryption allowed numbers, not interesting, not interesting, not interesting, not interesting. This goes in here. Transport is going to be TCP. Allowed. Custom headers, not interesting, not interesting. And that should be enough. Yeah, that should be enough. Import. And now I'm going to go here. I'm going to say this is my agent. It saved it. Now I'm going to go back into Cloudonix. Container application. Go here again. I'm going to say dial to Telnyx, dial to retail, dial to VAPI. Function dial to 11 labs. This is going to say 11 labs, I think. And now I'm going to say here, if it's this, if it's that, if provider is VAPI, then it's this. Let's now say AI provider routing. We're going to change this a little bit. We're going to say switch provider case VAPI break case retail break case 11 minus break. Now let's do this is advanced. Analysis of that. Okay, provider equals VAPI. Now to VAPI. That's now VAPI. Retell. And then this is the retail to 11 labs. Okay, so now provider equals retail. It doesn't expected and identify instead const. Very interesting. What did I do wrong? Switch provider. Switch direction. I messed something up. What did I mess up? Expected and instead saw. Oh, that means I didn't close something the right way. Let's remove this little bugger from here. That is not really required. Exports. AI provider has already been declared. Oh, yeah, got it. Equals this. This. Okay, here we go. So now I can say provider. Let's say I'll say 11 labs. Updates. Okay, can you try dialing?
Yes.
Let's see if let's see if I hit it again.
Hey there, I'm Alexis from 11 Lab Support. How can I help you today?
See? And you can add any of the 10 different service providers that we support. You can add them as much as you want.
And you can prioritize based on region, based on time of day, based on
language, phone number, whatever you want to base it on. Doesn't really matter. I can say, okay, you can do something really interesting here. So you can have one number and then activate based on the caller ID. For example, if you see the caller ID, let's say you have one number in the US, fine. And you say, okay, my number, I can see the caller ID coming in from the UK, so I'm going to use an agent on 11 labs with a specific voice.
or okay, so then that means some of those, the new models, like with Hindi language, you can have a declaration to use the more expensive model when you know the note. No.
Technically speaking, I can do stuff like this. So I can go here into the application and I can do, for example, let's say retail, okay? So I'm going to say result plus equals, I'm going to say header. And I'm going to say, let's see how, I never remember this by heart. So voice application reference, verbs, dial, header. There you go. And so I can say name, value. There you go. So I go here, header, name, and say X, voice name, say Google, Alexa, Studio, whatever, I don't know, pick your pick. And then I say header X, transcriber, deep rec. And now these will be passed over to Retell as SIP headers. And when activating the agent, potentially, I can use these to tell the agent on the other side, use it like this, use it like that. I want you to use this transcriber and use something else. So today, your agents are relatively static. the way they're configured, that's the way they're configured. But this gives you the capability of coming in and turning them into something very dynamic.
Is it still declarative though? Because you're declaring if then that. Am I right? Or can you have it conditional in the sense of best case is the weather is sunny, only happens when it's sunny, or first thought was if VAPI's prices go to 10 cents a minute and retail is 5 cents a minute, then it automatically switches. But I know that's a little more of a complex example, but more.
Look, it's code. Code can do anything.
Okay.
It's just code. It's just a question of detailing what you want to do and code it in. There is no can't be done here.
Yeah, I'm not thinking in that way. I'm just exploring the possibility of having intelligence where it's, say, like a language model and you get.
Well, if you want it to be a little bit more intelligent, then you can use an external webhook, and then before the call gets routed, query some external LLM or external something that will, do something a little fancier, and it will give you back a result. And then based on that result, you decide, I want to go there, I want to go here.
Okay. Perfect.
It's so one of the things, and this is, I think that a lot of people actually miss this little part, is that there is quite a lot of processing that you can do, like pre-crunching before the call even gets to the AI agent. And you can do that, at this stage. And you can get a lot of the AI data, pre-crunched so that the AI works faster. So you want to,
Yeah.
so here's a funny thing. Okay, so VAPI and Retell both started, somewhere around late 23, more or less. When you think about mid 23. I already had a working voice agent in December 22. But not in the same way, where VAPI built an orchestrator. I built something a lot simpler. And it didn't have rags. Well, it did have a rag, but not in the form of how rag is today. Well, I used Google Sheet to build a rag. Okay, so at the end of the day, it's just code. Anything can be done. Yeah. It's just a question of, can you describe it in a way that is meaningful? But again, this is how you go in and do all of this stuff. It's just a question of how much you're willing to invest in it in terms of time and complexity. But you can definitely go in and offload a lot of the work that people think the AI should do, like whitelisting, blacklisting. I think that coming in and giving an AI, an agent, the task of whitelisting phone numbers or blacklisting phone numbers is silly. Because eventually the number of phone numbers you're going to be blocking or whitelisting is going to be longer, and tokens is going to be more expensive than the actual prompt. And I don't know, have you seen the this is so silly. There's been this thing on LinkedIn about how to represent structural data to an AI in a token economical fashion. Have you seen that one? So everybody goes about saying
JSON is dead.
JSON is dead, right?
Boom.
And then somebody came in with something called Tune. You saw that one? And
Yeah.
then today I saw something called VSC.
Oh,
You know why it's called VSC? It's values separated commas, which is actually the reverse of CSV. So we came in from JSON, which was incredibly declarative and descriptive, over to Tune, which is kind of like a shorthand to JSON, all the way back to a bastardized version of CSV that has no titles. Like, seriously? Like, we've come full circle? Like, we went from being idiots to being smart, now we're back to being idiots? Okay. All because we want to save a few tokens. To me, that means we're doing something wrong. But again, the funny bit, it's called VSC, which is really funny. Yeah. Oh, Owen, I totally forgot to update you. Diversion has been added. There is it's not documented in, but like the header, the directive that I just showed, there is a diversion directive that you can use in order to add diversion headers. It's going to be released and documented, I hope, in the next week. I've been just too busy to finish it.
Oh, wow. Really impressive.
Yeah, but it's not going to be free formed. It will basically allow you to just say, when you do a dial, you'll be able to say diversion, and you're going to say diversion with the phone number, and basically we'll add diverted from phone number at your Cloudonix domain. So that's how.
Okay, where did you mention that? You said that you mentioned that before?
No, it's brand new. It was never mentioned.
No,
And you'll be able to
So-
put in a reason as well.
where do we put it?
So it will look exactly like this. So I'll show you.
In the code?
Yeah, so in the CXML, you'll be able to do like header. Then you'll be able to do something that will look like this, for example. Now it'll be able to do diversion, and then it will be phone. It'll be diversion phone number, I think. And here you're gonna put it like an E164, like 1212777, like this. And here you're gonna have reason, and you'll have like a set of reasons that you can define, like unconditional or something like that.
Oh, really amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the idea is to provide the functionality, but because diversion is a very broad spectrum directive inside SIP. There are too many options, so we just said, okay, we're going to support a very specific subset of how it's going to be working.
So you support unconditional or what?
You're going to have like unconditional, user busy, unavailable, and stuff like that. And you'll be able to define which one you want.
Thank you.
Yeah. I just need to finish the documentation about it. There were, over the past month, we released, I think, over 60 different features on the platforms. And we just couldn't, we weren't able to document all of them. It's just too much. Just to give a rough idea, watch this. So by the way, if you ever want to see our latest documentation, so we maintain something called developer staging. So this is actually where we write our documentation before it's released, and we make sure it's correct and so on. So if you go here, for example, dial here, see diversion. It's here. See that? No, it looks like this. It's diversion, reason, follow me, and the number. And these are all your supported reasons.
So this is under staging?
Yeah, it's called developers Cloudonix staging.
Staging Cloudonix.
I'm putting it in the chat. So like all the latest features always get documented in here, just so you'll know. So for example, in service, these are all these providers are now fully supported on Cloudonix. So they're directly supported. By the way, if any of you are building something on LiveKit, we can add your LiveKit service as a built-in service provider in 60 seconds. You just send us your LiveKit SIP URI, and it'll take us exactly 60 seconds to add it in, and we know it works because LiveKit is built into our platform. So so that's that. Hopefully we'll get to releasing this feature in a more meaningful way in the upcoming months. So this is basically an agent orchestration inside Cloudonix. It's not as robust as VAPI and Retell, but it is very, very capable for simple use cases. You can also use this as a kind of like a triage before Retell and VAPI or any other. So you can have this as your frontline receptionist answering the phone and then offload to wherever you want to offload. So you can do that as well. Sometimes what I've learned over time is that sometimes let's say everybody is focused on guardrails inside the prompting, but sometimes a hard guardrail, something like 2 different agents or even on 2 different platforms, can be far more efficient than building guardrails and so on inside the same agent. So again, it's something that you can consider. And there are new tutorials that I need to finish here, which basically show how to connect Twilio and so on. By the way, one of you asked about Twilio codecs, right? Twilio doesn't allow you to select the codec, as far as I can recall. These are like screenshots directly from Twilio. Yeah. There's VAPI routing now, a whole bunch of stuff. Awesome. Guys, any other questions?